All right, so you just got hit by ransomware. In this video, I'm going to guide you through the process. The very first step you need to do, and trust me on this, is take a really, really big breath. Here, let's do that together. I'm going to walk you through it. First. All right, one more big breath. Number 2. All right, you feel better? You need to feel better. Because when you're working through a scenario like this, you've absolutely got to be calm. If you're watching this in your office and you are flailing at what to do, this is so important. You walk out of that office and you are very calm, you are very collected, because everyone is going to feed off your energy, whether it's negative or whether it's positive. I have been through rough situations before, and I can tell you operating very cleanly and coolly under pressure is one of the most tantamount things that you can be doing. Okay, so you can survive this. You can make it through. Many organizations ahead of you have done the same thing. Now, it's not going to be easy. You're going to go through some stressful times as you are right now, maybe some sleepless nights. This is going to be hard. I'm not going to lie to you. However, you can get through this. You have the strength to get through it. Trust me on this. Follow this video, follow my advice, and I'm going to give you a lot of help through this process, okay? Now, if we've never met, my name is Wes Spencer. I'm a technologist. I'm a cybersecurity executive. I have helped and guided organizations just like yours through this. Now, chances are, if you're watching this video, you're in one of 2 camps. The first camp is you have never dealt with this, but you're researching it, you're wondering what to do, and you came across this video. You're in the right place. Operate as if you are in the middle of a ransomware incident, as much in your head as you possibly can, and this is going to help you game plan and build playbooks and response guides around this. Now, unfortunately, if you're in the second camp, you're in the middle of a real ransomware incident, okay? I know that, I recognize that. You're gonna watch this entire video all the way through. Come back to each part, pause, take a big breath, and tackle each piece as you get to it. And I promise you, it will help you tremendously, even if it doesn't feel like it in the very middle, okay? So let's go ahead and get started. In the middle of an incident like this, you've got to operate quickly. Time is absolutely of the essence, especially at the very beginning. But hear me, there's a difference between operating quickly and operating recklessly. You absolutely cannot operate recklessly. If you do that, you will cause more damage to your organization. You've got to trust me on that. So we're going to talk about working quickly, cleanly, and efficiently. Now, I'm going to give you one chance to do this. We did a breathing exercise at the very beginning just to calm the nerves a little bit. But when you walk out of that office, you have got to be calm and collected. So if you need to scream, if you need to get it all out with the frustration and the anger, do so. I get it. I've been in those situations working with clients that just feel like their entire business is eroding before them. Years of building this up. Maybe this is your retirement, whatever, and being hit with a ransomware incident just feels like it's all come unraveling. So I've got a pillow. You go grab one too. And if you need to scream into the pillow, you go do it. This is your only chance to do it. I'm going to do it with you. Ready? Pause the video and come back to this if you need to. Ready, set, go. Okay. Man, that helped me. If it helps you, good, do it. So what's the very first thing we've got to do? First, we have got to isolate our machines. Now, you may have probably one of 2 scenarios here. The first scenario is you have just one machine that's been hit with ransomware. If that's the case for you, you are very fortunate, because typically those are the non-sophisticated types where you can just cordon the machine offline, pull it offline, and you're okay. If you're in the other camp, and likely you are if you're watching this video, and you've got a systemic ransomware event, in other words, you've got ransomware that's deployed everywhere, totally different scenario. You have got to act very, very, very quickly. Here's what you need to do. You have got to isolate every single machine that is known to be breached with ransomware. Now, there's a lot of ways you can do this. What you don't want to do is pull the power plug. Don't power that thing off. If you do, you're going to ruin some forensic evidence that is very important. You need to remove the network connections. If you can very easily do that with physical access, go ahead and do so now. Pause the video and get that done. If you're a larger organization and this is something more systemic, it's not just site-wide, but it's campus-wide or multiple other locations, you may have to do something drastic. You may actually have to pull network connections or remove entire network segments to do this. But you've got to do what it takes, just like in a real human triage situation where we're going through some kind of event like this and you have to like do whatever it takes to staunch the bleeding. This is the scenario that you're in right now. Staunch the bleeding, stop the damage, cordon contain. So if you've got to take everything offline, go ahead and do that now. Secondly, and this is equally important but must come after the containment, the second thing that you need to do is call your cyber insurance provider. Now, at this point, you should have somebody that's handling cybersecurity insurance for you. If you don't and you're watching this video, that is a big, big, big mistake. It's something that needs to be considered. So if you're not going through a ransomware event and you're just game planning, now is your chance. Hear me. You've got to get cybersecurity coverage in place. If you already have it, you need to have the hotline ready to go. So all cyber insurance providers or a regular umbrella provider that has cybersecurity coverage is going to have a hotline for this. You need to know what that hotline is. It needs to be quickly accessible, not just in digital form, because what happens if everything's offline, right? Or everything's been ransomed. Also in printed form, where you can very easily get to that, or maybe in some cloud documentation that's completely isolated. However you have it, you need to have that phone number ready to go. Now is the time to make that call. Here's what's going to happen. The instant you make that call, they're going to ask you a whole bunch of questions. They are not going to say, hey, just sit on the couch with me and tell me everything that happened and how you feel. Nope. They're going to ask you what's impacted, how big is it impacted, how many clients, if you have clients that you're working for, what kinds of data, what kinds of machines. They're going to ask you a lot of questions. In many cases, you're not going to have the answers to all of that. You're going to have to write that down and say, I'll get back to you. The more data you have around the questions they're going to ask, the better off you're going to be. I mean, that's just a fact. So one thing you can do is talk to your insurance provider now and get that game plan, get that map from them and say, hey, I'm not struggling with an incident right now, but if I was, what data do you need right away? The quicker you have that data, the faster it's going to work for that cyber insurance provider. Now, the other thing that I think you should really be thinking about and be aware of is the fact that it's going to feel to you in the middle of guns blazing, bullets flying overhead, so to speak. It's going to feel like you're wasting my time, insurance provider. I got a real incident I got to take care of, and you're asking me all these silly questions. Here's the deal. They have been through this many more times than you. In fact, oftentimes every single day. They know what they're doing. The questions they're asking are intentional. Trust them through the process. Answer the things that they have and get through all that. Very, very important, because they need to pick up speed and come alongside you to help. And the only way that happens is when you help them and you work with them. So get that done next. In the middle of all of this, the other thing that you're going to struggle with is you're going to want to contact the bad guy. I mean, it's kind of natural. You're struggling with this. They've frustrated you. You're ready to straight up kill them. I get it. I understand that. Here's what you got to do. Stay calm, stay cool, and stay isolated from the bad guy. Do not communicate with him. Hear me loud and clear. Don't communicate with the bad guy. Now, I'm not saying there should never be communication. I'm saying it should not be you. Want to know why? Because you're under stress. Anytime you read about crisis management, the person under stress should never be the one negotiating. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to be emotional, irrational. Don't worry about that. Don't fault yourself for that. That's just human nature. So what you don't want to do is reach out to the bad guy. I have heard scenarios, and I've worked with other partners that have helped in these situations, and the victim ends up going back to the bad guy and saying, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to find you. I'm going to hunt you down for this. That is the worst thing that you can do. In those cases, usually they're going to raise the ransom on you. So don't communicate with them. Stay cold to them until the incident response that's coming on behalf of your cyber insurance provider gets involved. Now, let me come back to this. If you don't have a cyber insurance provider, you've got to at least retain an incident response firm. There's a lot of ones that you can find online. I'm not going to go through and make recommendations on them, but you need to have all of those things planned out. So just be thinking about that, okay? The other thing that I would do is get your phone out and take a picture of the ransom note. So the ransom note is going to be evident. It's going to be on the desktop. It's going to be everywhere. Anytime it encrypts a file, it's going to be very clear. The bad guy wants you to know who they are, how to get in touch with them, all of those normal things. So in those situations, take a picture of it, because that's going to really help. It's going to let you know and share with the incident responders, and it's going to share with the cyber insurance companies what that ransomware is, what the variant is. Just them seeing the message oftentimes is enough for us to know who that threat actor is and what the ransomware is. And I'm telling you, every ransomware operator is different. Sodinokibi works totally different than BitPaymer, works totally different than Maze. These guys are all different. So you've got to be prepared, and having that data in front is a really helpful and effective way to do that. Okay, take a breath. You probably have paused the video. You're coming back to this multiple times. Let me remind you, let me refresh you. Stay calm, stay cool, stay collected. You can get through this. So you're coming back to this video again. You finished those steps that I've given you. Now here's the next thing you need to be working on is a crisis communication plan. Have you thought about that yet? Depending on the size of your organization, or whether you're in a small town or a big town, at some point clients are going to get in touch with you. They're going to say, hey, where's XYZ that you do for me in normal business? The last thing you want to do is chew them out or say, I'm under a ransomware attack and blah, 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 blah. Things could get really bad really quick. Also, if you're a larger organization, you need to be very clear about who knows what's going on and make sure that only those that are authorized to speak are going to speak. The last thing you want to do is get put on a news site, and that news site has some inaccurate information. It affects your stock price and all of those things that just make things tumble even worse. You see where I'm getting at? So this is where a crisis communication plan is really important. The larger size organization you are, the more sophisticated that needs to be. You need to have somebody dedicated and assigned to handling that, that's trained to deal with crisis communication. If you're a smaller organization, again, it probably should not be you if you are personally dealing with the ransomware, especially if you're the business owner. So many times, and I often see this, the CEO is the one that wants to handle the communication. Well, the CEO is the one that's under the most pressure. See where I'm going at with this? Not a good idea. So you need to have that crisis communication plan done and ready to go. If you've never worked on one and you're using this video to prep, use it. To do that, go create a crisis communication plan. How do we communicate? What things do we say? When do we say it? How do we say them? Those things are really important and will save you a lot of grief in the middle of an incident. Now, if you don't have one and you're in the middle of a ransomware event like this, just keep these things in mind. The less you say externally, the better off you are. Because everything that you say that's incorrect is, guess what? Something you're going to have to correct later on. And that's going to cause heartache for you. So the less you say, the better. Now, invariably, you're going to be getting very, very close to starting data recovery. There's a lot of ways that this can be done. If the ransomware has not affected your network backups, you can likely restore from those backups. That's a good thing. By the way, do you have network backups? If you do, good. I hear people tell me all the time, oh, I've got network backups. They're pristine. And then a ransomware event happens, and guess what? Data's gone. They don't have it. They thought they had it. It's not being tested regularly. Or in worse events, when a bad guy gets full access to your network, one of the things that they will do before running ransomware is get rid of all your network backups. So these are things you need to be thinking of. Your ransomware protection should not just be, oh, I have network backups, I'm safe, I don't need to worry about it. I cannot tell you how many organizations I've worked with that have said, I thought that was me, I was super wrong. So don't let that happen to you. It's really important that you don't let that happen. Okay, so you can begin ransomware backups if you have them from your network backups. That's a helpful thing to do. If you don't have them, unfortunately, you're probably going to have to pay the ransom. Now, this video is not about do I pay, do I not pay? I have a lot of thoughts on that. We can cover that in another video. Just leave me a comment if you're interested in that as a topic, and I'd be glad to dive into it. But you may have to pay the ransom. There are the right ways and wrong ways to pay the ransom. Let your incident response and cyber insurance providers guide you through the ransomware payments. That is really, really important. Don't try to go pay on your own. You're going to get yourself in a lot of trouble, both from a regulatory perspective with US law, and if you just make a mistake, you're going to cause problems for yourself and maybe having to make another payment, because cryptocurrency is really not forgiving when you do something incorrect. The other mistake that I see a lot of organizations make is this. They don't understand which machines to decrypt and recover first. And the reason they don't know is because they don't know which machines are most important and critical to the business. Now, how do you get understanding around that? The best way to do that is to do what's called a business impact analysis. This sounds boring, but it is an important exercise you need to do on an annual basis that walks through what are my critical functions and what are the devices and assets that help me get through those, and what are the minimum downtimes required to be able to handle those outages. So if you've never done a BIA, it's important that you do one. If you have done a BIA, go consult it. If you're in the middle of a ransomware incident, unfortunately, and have never done one, then you're just going to have to use your best guesses and rely on that intuition. Not the best way to go, but hey, it's your only way. So just do that as best you can and be thinking of a prioritization list on what gets decrypted and recovered first. Now, the other thing that you should be thinking about is the data itself. How much of your data has regulations on top? Do you have EPHI, patient health information? Do you have PCI data? Do you have other data that's guided by regulatory controls? If so, you need to have that in mind, and you need to know how to deal with those kinds of things. And here's why. In many situations, today's modern ransomware, when you get hit by ransomware, if you are able to recover, one of the things a ransomware has already done and the threat actors have already done is they've exfiltrated a bunch of your data. Or they've at least made it known that they have ransomed your organization. And if you don't pay up, one of the things that they do is they exfiltrate or they share out or they make public a bunch of your internal corporate data. That's not a good thing. You need to be prepared for those data exfiltration events. How do you get prepared for them? Well, kind of simple. You need to be aware of what data you have and what kinds. You may have to work through that. You may have a HIPAA breach report that you have to file with HHS, for example, if you store EPHI, is just an example. You may have to be ready to have credit monitoring. Now, your cyber insurance provider is here to help with those kinds of things, but just be prepared that the data could also be exfiltrated. Just handling the ransomware event in today's day and age is usually no longer the end of this story. I wish it was, but often it's not. So be prepared for handling a lot of your data being leaked out by the bad guys. That is an unfortunate piece that we've got to think about. Now, lastly, as you're recovering, you need to be documenting as much as you can this entire process. Document work hours, document what's been produced, document the things you've had to pay for, because the way cyber insurance often works is they're going to pay you back after the incident is over. They're not going to be prepaying for things. A lot of people have that misunderstanding. Now, I am not a cyber insurance provider. I'm not giving you legal advice here. I'm just warning you, you need to be prepared to prepay a bunch of those things on your own, and then you're going to have to come back retroactively and get reimbursed. So if you're not keeping good records of that, it's going to be really hard in the aftermath. Okay? So I hope these are some helpful tips for you. I really would love your feedback. Did I miss something? Is there something else that you would like to see me cover inside of all this that just made you think through it? Are you prepared? If so, why? Leave me some comments. I would love to know. The most important thing you can do to give back to me is hit that subscribe button, smash it, mash it as much as you can. Share this video out with others. I truly hope this helps you. I truly hope you never go through a ransomware incident, but being prepared is the most important thing you can do. So I hope this video was helpful. Thanks.